She denied her poor dad at school, then lost everything. But before we dive in, leave a comment and let us know where you are watching from today. And if this story speaks to you, hit that subscribe button for more amazing stories. The school was buzzing with excitement. It was Parents' Day at Westlake Academy, a prestigious private school nestled in the hills. Students dressed in uniforms sharper than most job interview suits. Luxury cars lined the driveway. Parents wore designer labels and exchanged subtle power glances. Among them was 17-year-old Brielle Madison, tall, poised, the kind of girl whose Instagram page looked like a curated magazine. She straightened her blazer and adjusted the diamond earrings gifted to her by her godmother. "Remember," she whispered to herself, "image is everything." Her classmates gushed about their parents. "My dad's flying in from Dubai. My mom's getting her makeup done just for the speech. My parents are donating a new science lab." Brielle smiled tightly. Then her phone buzzed. "Outside. Wearing blue. Brought your portfolio. Proud of you, Dad." Her stomach dropped. Not here. Not today. Her classmates weren't cruel, but she'd seen how they reacted to anything different. And her father, Raymond Madison, was different. A janitor. Not just by profession, by appearance. His jeans were always faded. His boots worn. His hands thick with years of labor. But to Brielle, his presence was something she'd worked hard to hide. And now he was here. As she peeked through the crowd, she spotted him, his back slightly hunched, his work cap clutched nervously in one hand. He smiled and raised a hand. Brielle panicked. "Hey, isn't that the guy who fixes the plumbing in the gym?" One girl whispered. Another laughed. "Why is he waving at you, Brielle?" Brielle turned, eyes wide. I don't know him." Her father's smile faltered. He lowered his hand. Maybe he hadn't heard. Maybe he hadn't seen. But he had. A month passed. Brielle tried to forget the encounter, even as guilt gnawed at her. She stopped replying to his texts. "I've just been busy," she told herself. After all, senior year was full of obligations. SAT prep, college essays, modeling auditions, and prepping for the exclusive Athena Scholars Gala, where she was shortlisted for the school's top humanitarian scholarship. The school newsletter had already printed her story. Brielle Madison, a rising star from humble roots. Only, she'd edited those roots heavily. In the application she claimed her mother died when she was little, which was true, but she had glossed over the fact that her father worked 3 jobs to keep her in Westlake. Instead she wrote, "Raised by mentors and educators who supported my growth." Sounded better. More palatable. On the night of the gala, she wore a shimmering gold gown. Cameras flashed. Donors and trustees mingled with students. And then, during the awards presentation, something unexpected happened. "Before we announce this year's Athena Scholar, we want to introduce someone who embodies selflessness," the headmaster said. "Please welcome Mr. Raymond Madison." Brielle froze. He stepped onto the stage. Dressed in his best, still modest but clean-shaven shirt ironed. The crowd applauded politely. The headmaster continued, "A single father who, without hesitation, donated half his lottery winnings last year to our school's refugee scholarship program, while still working as a janitor. Mr. Madison has never sought recognition. But tonight we honor him." Brielle's eyes widened. "Lottery winnings? Donated? Why didn't he tell me?" And then came the twist. "We're proud to share," the headmaster beamed, "that our anonymous benefactor who helped fund this year's Athena Scholar Award was Mr. Madison." A collective gasp. Whispers. "But he's her father, right? Didn't she say she didn't know him?" Brielle stood, every eye on her. Raymond's gaze found hers, soft yet unreadable. She walked to the front, forced a smile, accepted the plaque, and felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. The aftermath was brutal. News spread through school channels and social media. Fake humanitarian exposed. Scholarship star denies her own father. Her friends grew distant. Sponsors pulled out. The scholarship committee called for a review. Universities she'd applied to asked for clarifications regarding discrepancies in your family background. Everything she had built, her image, her story, was unraveling. But worse than the public shame was the private silence. Raymond didn't call. Didn't text. Didn't show up at school. She went home one night finding the front door slightly ajar. Inside the house was dark. On the kitchen table was a yellow envelope. Inside, her childhood drawings. A photo of her and her dad at a science fair. And a note. You used to be proud of where you came from. Maybe one day you will be again. I still love you, kiddo. Dad. Tears streamed down her cheeks. She remembered him sewing her Halloween costume at 3 a.m. Teaching her to fix a leaking faucet. Waiting in the cold while she took ballet lessons he could barely afford. She had traded all of that for polished lies. And now, she had lost more than a scholarship. She had lost her father. A week later, Brielle sat alone in the Westlake Library, her scholarship officially revoked. The email had come that morning. Due to a misrepresentation of personal background in your essay, the committee has decided to withdraw your Athena Scholar status, effective immediately. She had no more followers pretending to be friends. No more glowing features in school blogs. Even teachers who used to praise her now looked at her with quiet disappointment. And worst of all, she couldn't blame them. I did this, she thought bitterly. She typed out a text to her dad, then deleted it. Typed another, deleted again. Finally she wrote, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Can we talk? She hit send. No reply. Days passed. Still no response. Then one morning, Brielle arrived at school to find students crowded around the bulletin board. She pushed forward and read the flyer. Janitor Madison resigns. After nearly 2 decades of quiet service, Mr. Raymond Madison has decided to step away. The school thanks him for his dedication. Her chest tightened. He was gone. She ran through the hallway, pushing past lockers, through the side door and down the back steps of the gym. The janitor's closet was open, but empty. Only a broom leaned against the wall. She walked home that night not in a limo but in silence. When she reached their modest 2-bedroom home, the lights were off. Curtains drawn. A for sale sign stood on the lawn. He tried the door. Locked. Taped to the window was another note. Sometimes silence is the only way to teach someone to listen. Brielle spent the next 3 days searching. She skipped school. Took the bus into town. Checked every shelter, diner, church. Any place her father might go. Nothing. She even tried calling former school staff who had worked with him, only to get pitying looks or silent shrugs. Exhausted, she sat down at their neighborhood park bench, the one he used to bring her to after work when she was small. She remembered how he used to say, "One day you're going to go further than I ever dreamed, just don't forget who helped you reach." And she had. She opened her phone and posted something raw for the first time. Camera with flash, a photo of her and her dad at her 5th grade science fair. Caption: I denied my dad at school. Lied to gain approval. Lost everything. But he's the only person who ever showed up for me without asking for anything in return. I don't know where you are, Dad, but I miss you. If anyone sees Raymond Madison, please tell him his daughter is trying to find her way back. She didn't expect the post to go viral. But it did. Comments poured in. This broke me. I work with Mr. Madison at the shelter downtown. He's been volunteering here the past few days. He helped me fix my car once without even asking for payment. I'll never forget him. Brielle's hands trembled. Shelter downtown? She was on the next bus before she could think twice. She found him in the kitchen of the church-run shelter on 9th Street. Wearing an apron, laughing with other volunteers, ladling soup into bowls. His eyes met hers across the room. The ladle stopped mid-air. Brielle stepped forward, barely holding herself together. Hi, Dad. Silence stretched. The room quieted. I've been looking for you, she said, voice shaking. I messed up. I was ashamed, not of you. Of how I thought people would treat me if they knew. But the truth is, nothing about me is worth anything if I can't be proud of where I come from. Raymond took off his apron slowly. You know how many times I replayed that day? He said quietly. How many ways I thought it could have gone. She wiped her eyes. I know. And none of them would have made what I did okay. But I'm here. I want to make it right. The other volunteers turned away respectfully. A moment passed. Then Raymond stepped forward and pulled her into a tight hug. I never stopped being proud of you, he whispered. I just needed you to start being proud of me too. Brielle sobbed into his shoulder. I am. More than ever. As they sat together in the shelter kitchen, she shared everything. The fallout, the revoked scholarship, the messages she'd received, the public shame. He listened. Patient. Calm. just like always. Then he said something she didn't expect. You still have a future, Bree. But you're gonna build it the right way now. From the ground up, with truth, humility, and gratitude. She nodded. Later that week, Westlake issued a public statement acknowledging Mr. Madison's generosity and correcting their oversight in honoring him too late. An anonymous donor offered Brielle a second chance through a new scholarship, this time for students who publicly reconciled with past wrongs and committed to community service. Brielle accepted. She transferred to a state college nearby, majoring in social work. And every weekend she volunteered beside her father, serving others, learning what true dignity looked like. Months had passed since Brielle rebuilt her life from the ground up. She was no longer the girl obsessed with image. She was grounded now, humble, focused, and volunteering at the shelter every Saturday next to her father. Between her classes in social work and mentoring younger students from underprivileged backgrounds, she finally felt purposeful. But one chilly October evening, as she cleaned out the attic of their modest home, she found a box marked "Private, Dad." Curiosity tugged at her. Inside was a stack of envelopes, all addressed to her. Some were years old. Her name, carefully written in her father's familiar handwriting on each envelope, but never sent. She opened the first one. "Dear Brielle, you're 6 today. You told me you want to be a scientist like the ones on TV. I'm sorry I couldn't afford the telescope you wanted. But I promise I'll work overtime until I can buy it for you. Love, Dad." She opened another. "You're 10 now. You just performed at your school's play. I stood in the back and watched you shine even though you told me not to come. I clapped anyway even if you didn't see." Each letter was a time capsule of love, guilt, and unspoken pain. At the very bottom was a final envelope, newer, thicker. Inside it she found legal documents, a will, and a medical report. Raymond Madison, diagnosis, early onset Parkinson's. Brielle's breath caught in her throat. Brielle raced down the hallway, gripping the papers. Her father was in the living room watching an old documentary. She held the documents in shaking hands. "Dad, why didn't you tell me?" He looked up. Eyes calm. "Tired. I was going to," he said gently. "Just, not yet." "How long have you known?" she demanded. "Almost a year. Around the time you lost the scholarship." Her heart pounded. "You were sick while you were working at the shelter? While you were helping everyone else?" "I didn't want to worry you. You were finally becoming someone strong. I didn't want my weakness to get in the way of your growth." She sat beside him, tears pooling in her eyes. "You're not weak. You've never been weak. You've been carrying me, even when I didn't deserve it." He smiled. "You're carrying yourself now. That's all I ever wanted. But I want to carry you now," she whispered. "I'm not losing you too." Raymond reached into his pocket and pulled out an old, folded photo. It was a picture of a woman, smiling, radiant, holding baby Brielle. "That's your mother," he said softly. "She was strong like you. And she made me promise to protect your light, even if that meant stepping into the shadows." Brielle's throat tightened. "Then let me be your light now." In the months that followed, Brielle reorganized her schedule. She cut back hours at the cafe where she worked part-time and picked up night classes so she could be home to care for her dad. She became an advocate, not just in words but in action. She created a blog titled "Letters He Never Sent," where she published pieces of her father's unsent letters and her own reflections. It exploded online. Readers from across the world wrote in, sharing their stories of reconciliation, regret, and redemption. The blog led to a podcast. The podcast led to speaking invitations. Before long, she was asked to speak at her old school, Westlake Academy. The same stage where she once accepted a scholarship she didn't earn. She now stood with purpose. "Sometimes," she said to a hushed crowd of students and parents, "we only realize the value of something after we've rejected it. I denied my dad at school because I thought success meant perfection. But I learned that real strength comes from embracing the truth, even when it's messy, painful, and humbling." She looked toward the back of the auditorium, where Raymond sat with his walking cane, beaming with quiet pride. After the speech, a man in a gray suit approached her backstage. "I represent the Turner Foundation," he said. "We'd like to fund your platform as a nonprofit, to help other young adults reconcile with their families, and create awareness around early-stage caregiving and second chances." Brielle was stunned. Are you serious? He handed her a card. One condition, we want your dad to co-author a book with you. She laughed, wiping her eyes. He always did have the better words. That night as they walked home together, Raymond said, You know, when I wrote those letters, I never thought you'd read them. But now the world is. She looked up at him. And now the world knows the truth, Dad. He nodded. But more importantly, I do.